Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Wonder of Anime podcast. My name is Lisa, and I am a multimedia anime content creator, and my work spans across my blog, my YouTube channel, and of course, this podcast. This week, I am so excited to be joined by my lovely guest, Dana. Dana, also known as Sundai, is a cosplayer and fashion enthusiast who cosplays both anime and video game characters. She also makes cozy lifestyle-related content and blogs about her interests. And I'm actually a fan of her blog. I love blogs. So, Dana, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I feel honored to be here.
Yes, and I'm so excited because the anime that you're going to be talking about today is actually one of my favorite animes from long ago, which is Princess Tutu. And I feel like a lot of people don't know the wonder that is Princess Tutu.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm so excited to get into that. But before we do, I do want to know a little bit about you and your journey as a content creator. So how long have you been cosplaying or making content in general? And how kind of did you start doing that?
It feels weird to say because it's like I've been cosplaying now for about, it's 2024, 7 years now. It's been 7 years. I started in my freshman year of college because I've had, I went to a small liberal arts college and I happened to get paired up like on the same floor with a bunch of other black femme nerds. And a couple of them were cosplayers, and I like looked at them and I was like, oh my god, like that's amazing. I didn't know that you could do this. I didn't know that this is something that people did. And then they helped me like start. They kind of taught me like the ropes, and even now, years later, I still like cosplay with them if I can, and it's just an amazing experience. That's kind of how I started. But in terms of like the other content that I'm doing, it's just kind of like a way of me to learn how to branch out and be more, to like appreciate myself a little bit more, but also like to focus more on myself instead of like other people. I think I've grown up a bit insecure in life for like a good portion of it, and I think like after reading like books and just like learning about how to be more confident and how to love yourself more, it was good to like look inward and just start to do things that make me happy, learn what I like, not what everybody else like. What do I like? What do I want to do? What is something that's for me and not for other people? So when I make this lifestyle content, I'm like going to food places. I'm talking about the manga that I love. I'm talking about just the games that I like to play. But I'm also like looking at the clothes that I want to buy. Like, how do I want to dress? Like, what does my own style look like versus what do I see other people wearing versus what does everybody else like? What do I like, right? Like trying to learn about myself while also just like kind of like documenting and also having fun, like creating stuff that I like. I like to make fun pictures. I like to do fun edits. So just enjoying that process for myself as well.
I love that. I always say that I love that, but that just resonated with me so much, especially I feel like we are in an era of like over consumption and over like there's so much content, there's so much things, and it's I feel like a lot of content is geared because now everybody is like content creation is a way to make money, so everybody's trying to sell you something, and it's very geared towards aspiring to be someone else and to live a certain lifestyle. And you'll see like how to get cozy girl aesthetic, how to get clean girl aesthetic, and it's never like this is me, this is what I like, this is what I enjoy. It's always kind of like focused on other like to other people to like you or to be like you. So I love that you're making content that's whatever you want and exploring your interests and what you want to do, because I feel like in general being online, that's kind of like where online started. Like people used to have their blogs and have their own little like spaces, and then we've kind of strayed away from that, but I am seeing a return to that. I think more people are returning to blogging and more of a return to like being who you really are and stop trying to be like everybody else.
Right. And it's funny that you bring that up because literally I want to have that like moment of being able to just share the things that I do with the like even if it's a small group of people, the small people who care and are also very interested and just want to know more or do the things that they want, because that was like a big part of what how like the internet kind of started off with, like socially and just people enjoying and just wanting to share what they do. Because like I missed out on that. Like I'm a little bit like technically like I'm on the cusp of like the Gen Z and the millennial like lens. For like reference, I'm born in 1999. Like, but so like a lot of those things that people got to experience, I was just like right near the cutoff where things started to blow up to what it is right now. Like I didn't know about I didn't have a MySpace. I knew about MySpace. I looked at it. I couldn't have one. I was like, what, like 10? I was like 8 to 10. Like it was never gonna be my thing. But it doesn't mean that I can't do it now. Of course, it's gonna look different. We're never gonna have that back before, but I can make this space for myself, and I can like share it with the people that care, the people that want to enjoy it, and I'm appreciative. That's how I meet so many genuine people. It's just having those people that also just want to share and love what they do.
Yes, I agree. We're seeing that comeback. We're seeing that resurgence, and I think to your point, like it does take a lot of intentional effort. Like I think me and you connected on Threads because we were like, who has a blog? And like, you have a blog, and I'm like, I'm trying to return to that as opposed to like, okay, like what are you posting on TikTok? I'm like, let me go to your website. Let me go to this, and it's it's more intentional because you do have to do the work, and it's not people, you know, usually the people that you're forming connections with, they're not the people coming up on the For You tabs because like their content hasn't gone viral or anything like that. Right. But that's such a good point. And now that you said the year that you were born, because I'm only like 6 years older than you, but this makes me excited to get into the anime that we're going to be discussing, Princess Tutu, because I'm curious to know like when you, and that's going to be one of the questions that we cover, when you got into it versus like when I got into it. So getting into the wonder of Princess Tutu, I always like to start this section with how I got into it and like where I'm coming from, because there are anime that guests are bringing to me that I've never seen, but Princess Tutu is actually one that I have seen. It's very close to my heart, and my journey with Princess Tutu is I think I found out about Princess Tutu maybe when I was in middle school. And the reason for that is there used to be, I mean, there still is probably, but I don't have regular cable anymore, so I can't tell you, on demand. And on demand would have like all of these programs that you can watch. And I didn't really have like a lot of packages channel packages when I was coming up. So whatever was on demand, I would just watch. And they would have the Anime Network. And I remember they had Princess Tutu, but what they would do, it would be strategic. Like they would only put a certain number of episodes, and like a new episode would come out every week. But then after that, you had to have the like subscription to the channel to finish it. And I never did. So I remember starting Princess Tutu, really liking it. I didn't have the subscription and I couldn't like finish it. And then I like forgot about it. And then when I was in college, I was like, whatever happened to Princess Tutu? Like I never finished that. And I ended up finding it, rewatching what I watched, and then binging the rest of it. And I was like, oh my God, I fell in love with it. To this day, there's nothing that I've ever seen that even comes close to what Princess Tutu is. Especially, it's just so whimsical. So when you brought this episode to me, I was like, what anime do you want to talk about? You said Princess Tutu. I was like, schedule you right now. Book this session immediately, because this is near and dear to my heart. So if you can tell us, what is Princess Tutu for those who are like, all right, girl, what y'all talk about?
You know, actually, like doing my research into this series, I was under the impression that this was a shoujo. It's a shonen. This is a shonen. Oh my God! I was like, what? I guess.
Okay.
But Princess Tutu is an anime that aired from 2003 to 2004. It was made by the Studio Hal filmmaker. I'm not really familiar with them. I don't know a lot of their other works at all. It has a manga adaptation. The adaptation came after the anime aired. It is only 2 volumes, and it seems to be a little bit quite different from the actual story of the anime. I haven't read the manga. Um, it seems like it's elusive. It's pretty hard to get your hands on that one too. I'm sure like it didn't even have an English release probably. But this story is kind of, if you couldn't tell by the title, it's really ballet focused. It takes influences from both the story of the Ugly Duckling, but also Black Swan. Oh, Black Swan. No, wait, Swan Lake. Swan Lake
Yes.
is the title.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of a completely different thing entirely.
I was like, wait a minute, but it could.
No.
I'm not questioning nothing.
No. And what it is kind of focuses on, there's this small town that's confined to a story that the creator Drosselmeyer has created and has wrote. But this story has currently paused. It is stopped. And the characters of this town are all characters within the story, but have also seemed to have paused. Not in terms, like, literally, but just figuratively. They're not completing the story. They're going through daily routines of life, but the story is not progressing. They're just going on in their daily lives. And some of the characters are fine with that. Some of the characters aren't aware that it's not, like, happening. They don't aware that they're characters to the story. And what it is, there's this outside character who is a duck, the cutest little duck, but she has seen this story, and she's fallen in love with this story. And she wants to see it through the end. And because of her love for the story, she has kind of manifested her way into the story and has become the main heroine of the story, Princess Tutu. She appears as a girl going to a boarding school for ballet, and she is like going to school with the other main character. She's going with the prince, the evil princess, the knight who has a untimely fate, for just as a little bit of foreshadowing. And she works to get close to these different students, these other characters, and she also uses her own powers as Princess Tutu as she transforms into this beautiful, graceful dancer to try and save and resurrect this story, but also tries to save her one love, the prince, as well.
Man, the remembrance, I feel like I'm just like, oh my god, like just bringing back, so because it's been so long since I've watched this. Ooh, I've got like chills just remembering this. So yeah, it's so interesting with Princess Tutu, because that synopsis that you gave us, you really, like, the first couple episodes that don't even compute. Like you would never see this anime coming, and that is one of my, I think, my favorite parts about it. But how did you find out about this anime? How did you end up landing upon it, and when?
So I think, like, as most like anime fans that have been around for a while or have been long-term anime fans, like, even when I was like a younger, like young kind of like toddler's child, I was one of those kids that also watched Dragon Ball and like watched some of Dragon Ball Z, and like I watched a little bit of Sailor Moon, but I didn't really process that I was watching an anime. I just thought I was watching another cartoon. So when Netflix first started coming out, you can watch the movies and like you can order the disc and you can watch their small selection, and it was very limited back then, wasn't it? It was like you only had a few titles here and there, but they had anime. And when I was looking at different titles, Princess Tutu would always just come up. It would always be there in the selection, but I wouldn't watch it. I was watching kind of more like funnier things there. I watched like Host Club first. And I think I was either like beginning middle school or like in middle school when I had first actually looked at Princess Tutu and sat down and watched it. And I think actually that might, and when people ask you what anime solidified you as an anime fan, that is the anime I always say. I was like, I finished it and I was like, maybe I am a fan of this. Maybe this is a genre that, like, maybe this is a type of animation that I could really enjoy and get into. Like, I think when I think of a show that really solidified me as an anime fan that I go back to, that I think about a lot, it's always Princess Tutu.
Because it's the best. Like, it's so good. And so, oh my god, like, so you watched it in middle school, and obviously, like, that's a long time from now. when did it solidified you as an anime fan, but when do you feel like you noticed or you knew like this is one of your favorite animes? Like it's been plus 15 years since you've been in middle school. How did when did you know that this is gonna be your anime?
So it's like, you know how you said you didn't get to watch the entirety of the series? So I had stopped during my initial watch to halfway through the series because it had a good, satisfying conclusion there, like halfway through. And you see that there's still, 12 more episodes. And I'm like, it can only get worse before it gets better. And I didn't know. And I'm that kind of person, like, if I'm reading a book and I know that it's going to get worse, I have to put it down and stop because I don't know if I can handle it. I'm that person that if I know a bad part is happening in a movie, I will skip it so I cannot have to experience it. So for a good while, I didn't watch the ending either.
Oh my God. On purpose.
Because I didn't know what to expect. And honestly, when I was watching it, I was stressed. I was stressed a lot. But I knew when I finished it that I loved this series. I knew that, I was like, was amazing. This was beautiful. But to say when did I know that it was one of my favorites, it's just a moment of, this is a show that I always recommend to people who are, like, interested in, like, it's not a shoujo, but I introduce it to shoujo fans. And, like, or people who are dancers. Also, like, when I think about a series that I love, it's always in that list of ones that I'm currently going down in my list. When I'm thinking about things that I just think are just so good, I think about it. Like, I remember going on YouTube and looking up different, and like episodes of anime that I used to watch. And sometimes I just find myself typing in YouTube, yes, the Princess Tutu pas de deux scene where she's dancing by herself. Like, I think about that moment so often. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how can it not be a favorite at this point if I'm obsessing over it to this extent? You know? And I even wanted to cosplay it, but, like, I don't... You see the prices? Because they all have to be custom made, because nobody just sells a ready-to-make Princess Tutu cosplay.
So when did you end up finishing it? Like, how old are you when you ended up finally watching the other 12 episodes?
For a minute, I had forgotten that I didn't finish it. So for a while, I thought I did, and then I was like, "There's more." Like, so then it was probably like a few months. It wasn't that long at all. Okay. It wasn't a huge gap, but it was enough for me to just wonder, like, ooh, let me. You know what? I can do it. I can handle it. Let me just go ahead and finish it just to knock it out. And I was like, actually, yeah, I love this. I love this.
It's so funny. So people listening may not know this is the first time we've like interacted on like video and talking like this. So it's so funny because I'm so similar in certain ways where and it's not that I don't I want something to end somewhere. It's just I have extreme like secondhand embarrassment sometimes, and I cannot there's this anime called Golden Time that I stopped watching it for a year because something embarrassed me so bad and I could not finish it like a year later. And I find, so when you're talking about that, I'm like, oh yeah, my list of anime that are currently I have them on hold because I'm just like, something happened and I can't go back to it right now. And I just will also fast forward things that make me uncomfortable, or if I feel like this drama. So I relate to that. When you said that, I was like, oh, you're one of my own here, because my friends know, they'll recommend something. They'll be like, but you get awkward around too much drama or something. So I felt that in my heart and soul.
No, you brought that up, and you'll probably see this on my Annie list if you went to my profile. But I had just remembered to add this anime and manga is called Watamote. It's that's the shortened version of the entire title. And I was like, oh yeah, let me add it to tell everybody that I had dropped it. Because I dropped it so quickly because of the secondhand embarrassment. It's about a girl who has social anxiety, and she's an otaku, and it's her trying to become more out there and just more sociable, and you're seeing a lot of that kind of series happen now. But no, this is a comedy. This isn't just a slice of life. This is a comedy. So she gets in the worst possible situations, and she embarrasses herself almost every freaking chapter. And there was a chapter that I read, and I was like, this is it. this is my limit. This is where I hit the line. I'm not consuming this at all anymore. Not possible. I can't do it. And it's been years. It's literally been years. It's probably one of the first manga I've read. I hope to never even, when I see that character, I gotta scroll, I gotta click out.
It's on site. It's on site. You gotta go away.
I can't do it. And so many people are like, it's so funny. And I'm like, I'm glad that you can laugh at this.
Yeah, no, you're here with me because I'm so similar. But when you think about Princess Tutu, you mentioned, you still look up scenes. It's one of your first that you recommend to people. What is it about Princess Tutu that makes it timeless, that in 2024, this anime still comes top of mind and you're still recommending it to people?
One of the first things when you asked that I thought about, the dub is good. The dub is phenomenal.
I think I've only seen the dub.
I only seen the dub either. And I've heard, like, the sub here and there when I'm looking up clips, because you're not always going to find a dub clip on YouTube or something. But when I listen to the dub, that is solid. Especially for the time it came out, super freaking solid. And I don't even think I've heard any of those voices in a lot of other works in anime at all, ever. Like, I don't think I've heard the actress for Princess Tutu in, like, anything else.
Oh, well, no, actually, the voice of Princess Tutu, Luci Christian, she was like the voice of almost everybody in the 2000s. Yes, I hear her voice and I know her. Like, I know it's her. Like, I don't even have to look it up. I know it's her because she's been in like everything. And she's really. But it is one of those voices that I feel like I am a little bit older than you, so like if you know, but. It is a really good dub.
And it's funny that you said that because and I think I'm bad at recognizing just not completely like out there voices. Like, of course we all know the he who shall not be named Vic, who's been in everything, right? But I didn't realize, so I don't remember her name unfortunately right now, but when I watched Yu Yu Hakusho, Keiko's voice actors, she's the same one who does Maka, she's the same one who does Tor, and I did not realize that until recently, and I'm like, this voice seems awfully familiar. And then I was looking up, I'm like, oh, she does like almost all of my favorite female characters.
Right.
Oh wow. Like, I'm starting
but that's a testament to the voice acting.
Yeah.
that they're out here. No, but Luci Christian, I feel like I just grew up on her voice because she literally was, but she's like but what, to your point though, her Princess Tutu as a character, her voice is so, like, I can hear it in my mind right now, clear as day, especially when she's with the lead Mito. I forget how. Yeah, Mito. The way that she pronounces his name is like ingrained in my memory. It's like stuck in there. But you're right, it really does have like a phenomenal dub.
Right. And I think, like, and it might sound like, this is gonna sound like a little bit weird, but like, stick with me here.
I'm here.
So I, like, for part of the reasons I recommend it, for the similar reasons I recommend JoJo's to people, because it's quite different. It's not not to be like, oh, it's not like the other anime, but
not like other girls.
Right. But like, it's like, fundamentally I feel like it's different because there are so many different layers. It's built upon like already existing stories that takes elements there, and it's like implements them also in their own story. But then it's like, it's literally a story within a story within a story. Like, there are so many layers, and it builds up upon that. And it's only something that you can, like, you have to watch to understand. And it's even hard to kind of explain it to people, what is going on in the story, and, like, how significant different parts are, unless you kind of, like, watch it for yourself. It's different. Like, it has a different feel. Even comparison to other ballet-focused anime, it's completely different. Even comparison to other fairy tale-esque romance anime, this is completely different. And even, like, there's a recent trend on Twitter. How do you rate these tropes or cliches? And everybody was giving love triangles complete garbage. And I agree. But even the way this anime does a love triangle, it's completely different. It kind of flips it on its shoulder. Like, you're not mad at this love triangle because there's a reason why this love triangle has to exist.
Yes. And then you didn't even there. I think there's two love triangles.
Yeah.
And one you don't even see coming until like then it's like you're like, oh my god, like I think that too, one of the reasons like I'll never stop thinking about Princess Tutu. And anybody who's watching this, I'm not gonna. I always say like we can go into spoilers, but this one specifically, I'm not gonna say. And I know you've been avoiding it as well because it is. But there's a certain part that you're literally like everything you feel like you thought you knew and you knew where this story was going, you don't. And it's in a way that I feel like there's certain anime or certain manga like that when that huge plot twist that ruins your thoughts comes up, like you feel in a certain way like, oh my god. But I feel like how it happens in Princess Tutu is so unique and so different that for me, when I remember experiencing that, I was like, no, I get it. I've been fooled. I love that I've been fooled. Give me more, like,
right.
as opposed to being like, no. But I just, you make me so excited talking about Princess Tutu. And since you recommended to people, and I feel like there's not many of us out there, in the Princess Tutu fan, but you know, when you're talking to the show about people, or if there's something that you've noticed just being online, what is something about Princess Tutu, whether the characters or the plot points, that you feel like people are always getting wrong about this anime?
That I feel like people are always getting wrong. And I think when I talk about that it's Princess Tutu and I say that there's ballet, that they think that it's a ballet anime. Mm-hmm. And it has ballet in it, and it isn't an integral part to it, but it is by no means a ballet anime. I feel like you see it a lot, you see it often, but like when I think about it, I'm not thinking like, oh, ballet's the main thing about it. Like when I think about it, I'm like, the dancing's beautiful, sure, but I'm not going to tell somebody that you're going to learn a lot of the technicalities, you're going to learn all the phrasing, you're going to understand 100% ballet dancing coming through it. And then also thinking about like, I would say Yuri on Ice is a figure skating romance. I would say that Frieza's swimming anime. I would say Haikyuu's a volleyball, because they all focus on those sports. Ballet is much a building block into the story, instead of like a focus. You're never once thinking like, oh, how are they gonna do this dance?
Right.
Like, I'm over here thinking like, I know that she's going to dance, but I'm focusing on the plot and how it adds and benefits the story, because it's like it's centered around a lot of ballet themes. Like it has like the traditional ballet swan like tail woven into it, but like it's so much more than just the dancing of it. And I wonder, like, when I explain to people, if I'm getting that point across, that there is a lot of ballet, but it's not like it takes away from the story. It's not what the story's about at all.
I completely agree. I think if you are somebody that may have seen like promo of it or fan cam edits or like GIFs, like you would think automatically it's a ballet anime, but you're right. It doesn't go into any tech. It's just a vehicle in the story. Like the stakes aren't centered of them having a recital and then like winning the competition, like with sports anime where it's like, okay, the goal is to win. And that is something I just, when I think, it's so funny when I think of Princess Tutu, like the ballet is the last thing that I think about.
Right.
Like, yes, it's there and it's beautiful, but it's also like not what it's about at all. But I like that it throws you off. And then when you're thinking about Princess Tutu now, in terms of people who like the show, who enjoy the show, what is an opinion that you have that other Princess Tutu fans may find like unpopular or maybe different than the general consensus with the show?
It's hard because, like, I don't see too many, like, passionate Princess Tutu fans. Maybe people who've seen it here and there.
Maybe people will come out now. Like, once this episode, we gonna find them.
But I've always wondered what people's thoughts on the ending was. Like, on that final, like, ending, the final scene of what the conclusion is. Like, I've known that people have their own thoughts about what happens to the main character. I was at peace with it. I was fine. Like, I mean, like, do I think it's the best ending ever? No, but I think it was the perfect conclusion for here, like, for this, and it kind of, like, comes full circle, and I know that, like, from what I've seen here and there, that some people don't really agree, or, like, want their own fantasy to play out, but I found it to be in a way, it's a little bit bittersweet when you think about it in some form or fashion. But I think it was more on the sweet side of things. Like, everything was settled, everything was concluded, and everything kind of is just at peace. And I appreciated it a lot. Because I think we're so used to in so many shows, and we're starting to see less of that now with how things are going with certain, like, anime and manga. But before, especially during that time, you're so used to everything getting that happy, perfect conclusion. Everybody happy, everyone lives, nobody dies kind of solution. And not to say that it doesn't play into that a little bit, but I think that it didn't give the most idyllic conclusion that people would have wanted. But I think the ending that we got was, like, the ending that was needed and the ending that was perfect to what the show was about.
You saying that, I have, like, the wiki open, and I just reread the ending because I'd forgotten how it ended. But I would agree. Like, I would agree with your take on that as well. And I think the older that I get, and I mean, of course, I am a sucker for, like, we lived happily ever after, yay, everything, everybody's together, everybody having kids, everybody doing this. That's just me as a person. But given the story itself and the narrative and, like, what it serves to tell, I agree. Like, the ending, that it makes sense. It is bittersweet if you wanted something different to happen. But I feel like it's one of those that there's always going to be those stories that are never going to be perfectly ended. Like, you can't give everybody what they want. Right. and Princess Tutu is a good example of that, where, and I think that plays into the plot twist as well, because you kind of think the whole time you're watching the show that it's going to go a certain way. So I feel like when it doesn't, and then, you know, it changes and then the ending happens, like, I think if you saw it going one way and then you accepted the plot change, then you kind of were still kind of hoping, like, something similar to what you originally wanted happen. So yeah, I would think that too. I haven't thought about how that show ended in so long. I do remember, I feel like there's always an anime that, like, there gets to a certain point, no matter what anime I'm watching, where you're just crying all the time. I feel like that's what I remember of the end of my Princess Tutu watch, where I was like, this is just so beautiful. I don't know. It was really good. I felt it in my heart. So when you think about Princess Tutu as a whole, because it's crazy to think that this anime, and I kind of thought about it in the beginning when you gave the synopsis, started airing in 2002. I don't think I watched it until I think I was in 8th grade, so that would have been 2005, 2006, and then in college that would have been 2011. So that is then that's over 9 years. Now it's been 20 plus years of Princess Tutu as a whole. When you think about the legacy that Princess Tutu has left behind, and I also think it's crazy because, like you said, it was an original anime that then they made a manga for, but it was an original anime. When you think about what this accomplished in an original anime, which sometimes can be rare, what do you think the legacy of Princess Tutu is?
The legacy, I think. First, I wanted to say, I think, like, a lot of people don't give enough chances to original anime. I think they already just kind of write it off. They feel like if there's no source material, then it can't be good. But, like, growing up in the Western sphere of things, where most of our stuff has no written material, it's all just original writing, I think it just shows, like, Princess Tutu is a good example that shows, like, how beautifully a story can be made just from mind to, like, medium, right? Like, just straight to, like, the animation studio. In terms of, like, a legacy, I don't think of it in the same vein as I think of, like, maybe a Sailor Moon, or a Tokyo Mew Mew, or, like, a Cardcaptor Sakura, when you're thinking about, like, the girl power thing. It's there, and I think, and I don't also, it is weird because, like, it's such a beautiful anime, but it's also just kind of dark. It has, like, a dark era to, like, a dark, like, aura. Like, there are definitely, like, lighthearted colors, but it's like, when I think about it, I think more of, like, it's kind of darker because it's almost like in always like in that spotlight lighting, where it's always like there seems to be like one character always like in the light versus like on like a darker background, or like when I think of maybe like hand painted like scenery, like when you think of like a stage performance. I don't know if I'm like describing this well.
I because I've seen it. I get
like,
what you're saying.
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to say. Like if you ever been to like a ballet and you see how they do like this painted scenery, that's kind of like similar to how they do the Princess Tutu like background colors and background design, especially when she's in the forefront dancing to a different scene. But when I think about it, I think a lot about how beautiful, like it has like a certain air of grace and beauty to it that I don't see much in many like anime, and even like especially now I don't see it very often, and it's not something that's easily replicated. I feel like in a way it's like, to me, I think of it similarly to like Utena, where it takes like a certain story and kind of flips it where you're not expecting what's going on, but it has so many layers and different like depths of complexity that you can kind of like just go deeper and deeper and just kind of different like talk about how these characters and their relationships are like intertwined, and how it impacts their own characters, and how they have their, each character has their own story and part to play to make sure the final goal becomes what it is. Like they both have like, they're beautiful, but they're kind of on a more dark, edgier side of like the spectrum of like girl or like woman focused, like centered magical girl anime, right? Not to be like it's as dark as Madoka, like that's a completely different thing, but I think it has just a certain gentle strength to it that you don't see in a lot of different animes or so, especially with a female focused character. And I think that's a huge legacy that you like. I think that's a good part of a legacy that you get from Princess Tutu.
I agree 100%. As you were talking, I'm like looking at the tags that it has in like Annie list, and one thing that they have it tagged as is Maho Shoujo, which means dark and like dark fantasy. And I think that's such a perfect description because, you know, something that you said too, it's like you initially think of it kind of like a Cardcaptor Sakura Sailor Moon because it has those tropes, the transformation, you know, she's like fun and bubbly and quirky and she's tripping all the time. Right. She's getting yelled at in ballet class because she don't know what the hell she's doing. Right. And she transforms. So then like you're kind of like thinking that that's like it, and that's so like lighthearted. And then as you said, especially as the story goes on, there's a lot of darker themes and tragedy. And and again, it speaks to that, like the power of where you think the story is going and where it actually goes. And that is a really good legacy because I think immediately that maybe is something that people write off or they don't give it a chance because they're expecting it to be like, oh, it's just another magical girl. Right. And it's like, that's, again, I feel like Princess Tutu really throws you off so many times. Like, you think it's like a romance story. You think it's like a ballet story. You think it's a magical girl story. And it's like, yes, but no. And there's so much. I love this show so much. And you made me think so much about, like, why initially I was, like, hooked when I binged it that second time, where I was like, no, I need to find out how this really ended, because there was so much to it. And something that you mentioned too in the beginning I wanted to highlight, because at the time your episode comes out, I don't know exactly when, but the episode before it is also about an original anime, and we talk about, similarly to what you said, that a lot of times original anime gets a lot of like I would say mostly here in the Western, because I think people being uninformed, and of course we would be because we're not Japanese, we don't, you know, we didn't grow up in Japan. Like, people think manga is just a means to get an anime. So they think every anime is based on a manga. So they do think of original anime, like you said, as less, because that's what they know. They know every series that they like almost always has a manga. And it's, one, couldn't be further from the truth, and two, a lot of manga doesn't even get adapted into anime because manga's purpose isn't just like they are related, but they're two entirely separate industries as well that don't always equate manga anime.
Right.
But that was such a good thought too, because I kind of never really thought about that with original anime, and the reason is because I usually will watch anime that's based on a manga, because then as soon as the anime's done, I run and get the manga.
Right.
Because I'm like a manga girl. Like, I'm like, of course I love anime, but like my heart is in manga.
Right. And it's like and I think about it too, because Cowboy Bebop, key example. Like you got that's most like one of the most beloved like animes here in the West specifically. Also, like, and it makes me think about how they tried to push that wrong agenda where they said that Cowboy Bebop wasn't that popular in Japan. We would have never gotten it here if it wasn't. But like,
right. They're not gonna pick some random anime that nobody cared about and bring it over here. Be serious, especially in the 90s.
Right. So like, looking at it and thinking about it, it's just like, and I'm glad you brought it up. It's literally us here in the West that are having this way of thinking, and it's like some sense of superiority there, but it's like, relax, enjoy a story.
Take it easy, bring it down a notch. No, I agree. It's very interesting, and one thing that I'm loving about doing this podcast and bringing people to talk about their favorite anime is just having these conversations. I think it's like the last 3 recordings that I've had, the episode that comes out this week, your episode, and somebody else's episode, I think somebody else's too, is all based on original anime. So it's something I think that we haven't had conversations surrounding. So I'm excited that you kind of unintentionally continued that theme, and that actually didn't know either that Princess Tutu was an original anime, and I found that out like 2 seconds before recording, because I like to have like all the wikis open, because I'm like, I'm a very curious person. So somebody says something, I'm like, wait, let me Google that, so I'm ready. And I didn't know that either. And then it's funny, they based on the popularity, they're like, all right guys, we'll give you this manga, here you go. Like, you want the manga of this, you got it. But yeah, this has been such a wonderful conversation, and again, I told you, but I'm so excited and I'm grateful that you brought Princess Tutu back into my life, and I'm hoping that people listening to this check it out. I'm telling you, you guys may think we spoiled it. We haven't. Nothing has been spoiled. This is so unpredictable, twisty and turny. Right. We barely scratched the surface. I think, I don't think we gave anything away.
No, I was thinking of like, we gave like a couple of the characters' names, and we said that it's like based on like you might even think, oh, I know because it's based on Swan Lake that I know what I'm going into. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
And I don't want to, like, I always hate when people are like, you don't know what's coming, and like you're watching it and then you're like expecting something and then nothing happens and you're like, well, that was disappointing. I promise you guys I would not do this to you unintentionally. Like, even if you see the twist coming, there's just something so beautiful and dark about this story that it's gonna impact. If it's for you, it's gonna impact you in a way and you're really gonna enjoy it. So I hope you guys go out and watch it right now. Actually, let me see, where can people watch Princess Tutu? Right, I think it's on Prime. Yeah, it's on Prime Video.
I was like, it was on Netflix for the longest time. It's not on Netflix anymore, but Prime. Oh, see, I'm about to go watch it again.
And I think it's on High Dive too. As we are wrapping up, is there anything that people should be on the lookout for? Any upcoming content or projects that you're working on that people should check out? As always, I'll have all the links to anything you bring up and all your social media in the description of this episode.
Thank you. I won't say that I'm working on any particular project, but for those who choose to support me or who have already been supporting me and know, like, I'm just grateful and I'm thankful. But also just I'm glad. I'm just doing stuff that I'm trying to elevate what I'm doing, and I'm hoping to grow so much. So I'm hoping that you guys are able to see the growth. I hope that I'm able to present my growth in a way that is visible to you guys. So thank you guys so much.
I love that, and I'm sure people will be excited to follow you, especially your Instagram, which I know it's not like you didn't specifically promote it, but I just have to say, like, I love your Instagram because I love your fashion, and your cosplays, but like your like anime kind of related fashion. And I just feel like you have such a good, like, I love your sense of fashion and like the themes that you put together. And I feel like your Instagram is a really good, like, it's such a good display of all of your interests. I think it's like a really good like mashup of everything that you enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Well, everybody, for listening, thank you so much to listening to this episode of The Wonder of Anime. If you like this episode, please be sure to rate it, review it on whatever podcast app you listen to, or if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, I'm just thank you guys for listening, and I will see you on the next episode. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.